I was trying to be practical. Unfortunately, my voice does not allow me to be practical. So, welcome back. Did you guys have a nice lunch? Those that are saying no, did you pay tax? I don't think so. So before we start with the program, we have to be energized. You know, we had a couple of songs this morning, but there was not much energy. And I would like to see our delegates energizing us. We had the members from Ekuruleni rendering a song, but we had to cut them short because time was no longer on our side. Can they then render a song? And can we all get up, re-energize ourselves, and then we will commence with the program? Thank you. Members. Honorable members, can we just start a song, be energized so that we can start with the program, please? Can we do that? Or we can skip this whole progress and then start with the song. I mean, go straight to the program. Members, honorable member with a beautiful voice, can you start the Nelson Mandela song? Speaker. Yes, that one, yes. Thank you. Members, honorable members, we are trying to capture a clip that they're going to be playing in China. They've requested that we sing. Can you please sing, please?
Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, how na ya tonaliwen. Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela. How na ya tonaliwen. Umkondo wesizwe lusak Untitled Umkondo wesizwe lusak Untitled Mandela lo ona lozange bambo
I'm relaxing, baby.
Hawazange bambo na Hawazange bambo Mandela lo Hawamasiyo Hawazange bambo Hawazange bambo Hawazange bamona, Hawazange bamona, Hawazange bamona, Hawazange bamona, Hawazange bamona. Hawazange bamona, Hawazange bamona, Hawazange bamona, Hawazange bamona. Ah, kulolo manje. Tolamdana, Tolamdana. Zotshala umkhondo wesizwe. Hello.
Honorable members, may we please settle down.
5 minutes.
How much? 5 minutes, man. Honorable members, we will now be proceeding with our program for today. And right now, we will be having a KZN delegates, Honorable Tabani Pengu, who will be reciting for us a poem. Let us please give him a round of applause and welcome. Honorable members, I have recently been informed that Honorable Tabani Pengu from KZN is currently not available. We will now be proceeding to the song from the Eastern Cape delegates. Ms. Sipoga Zitwala, can we please give a round of applause?
Hi guys. Before we start, in the Eastern Cape we have a greeting, right? Basically, I say good afternoon, you say good afternoon, I say ninjani, you say siyashisa, we fired up. Ne? Good afternoon! Good afternoon! How y'all doing? Now y'all doing? Eastern Cape delegates, come on the stage, please.
Thank you very much, honorable members from the Eastern Cape. That was a very beautiful song. As we are proceeding with our program, there's a humble request here saying that as we are singing, if anyone happens to start a song and we are all singing, please ensure that you turn on the mics, because the sound crew will not be able to detect the sound as part of their clips when they are shooting if all the mics are closed. So if there's anyone starting a song and we are all singing, please turn on the mic so that the sound can be correctly detected. I would like to also acknowledge the presence of the following guests. That's why, unfortunately, that were unfortunately forgotten as some other guests were being acknowledged early on. We do have Dr. Mandisa Moholwana from the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital, CEO, and Mayor Pinky Mashiro of the Hospital Trust. Let us please give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, honorable members, we shall then be moving on to the next item of our program, which and I would like to call upon Ms. Trisha Naika, who's going to be the facilitator for these discussions and relating to business with hearts, changing the way we do business with youth. And let us please give her a round of applause as she proceeds forward. Oh, Patricia Naika, please.
Good afternoon to our Honourable Speaker, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen. Social entrepreneurship is a growing field which allows us to explore ideas that solve some of society's greatest challenges and turn them into enterprises which create generational wealth. The role of young leaders in the social entrepreneurship space is critical, and programs which encourage early stage involvement cannot be overemphasized. Our youth of South Africa are key enablers for creating positive and sustainable impact in their communities. They not only span a variety of generational groups, as is evident in the room here today, but they also range from mixed backgrounds and have overcome an array of challenges to stand as social impact activists and entrepreneurs who are developing avenues for improved socioeconomic conditions across South Africa. During each of the regional consultations, the young delegates actively engaged with the content, ideas, and of course with each other on social entrepreneurship. In fact, opportunities for social enterprises in local communities were further developed and shared amongst each other. During today's session, we seek to expand on the learnings of the regional consultations by engaging businesses and government enterprises on their programs which encourage social entrepreneurship, skills development, and youth engagement. Without further ado, let us begin today's discussion by welcoming our first speaker to the floor, and that would be Ms. Nasipi Bewana, who is a legacy member of FM Baksha, which is the youth program of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. Nasipi will speak to the projects which gained funding and support from NMCF through FM Baksha. Please give her a round of applause.
Okay, I'd like to greet our Honourable Chair, our Honourable guests, and the House at large. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of Ifeng Bacha and the role that Nelson Mandela Children's Fund has played through Ifeng Bacha in funding projects. In the year 2003, Ifeng Bacha, Nelson Mandela found a group of youngsters called Ifeng Bacha. And Ifeng Bacha is the representation of the voice of the youth. So in 2014, one of the first projects, 2004, one of the first projects that we had to do was to fund projects from around the country. So what we were given a budget of 200,000 to say, okay, to the whole country, let the youth found businesses create proposals and bring them to Nelson Mandela Children's Fund so that they can be funded. The group of Ifeng Bacha then sieved through the applications that were sent we received quite a number from all provinces. And the ones that were selected, say about 30, we did site visits where we went to see what was sent on the business proposal. Is it what they really do in the field? So we went to the field, and then we came up with 7 projects that were funded. We had a total of 200,000, so it depended on how much was requested at that time, and the youth groups were funded. So there are programs that Nelson Mandela Children's Fund is busy with to fund youth businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Nasibi. I'm now going to open the floor for a handful of questions which will be answered not just by Nasibi herself, but other members of Effingbacha. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand, and when I select you, if you could keep your question to about 30 seconds, and then you can speak. Thanks.
The question, well, I don't really, it's not much of a question, it's more like, so what I'm concerned about is some of the statues outside outside Parliament, because those statues are of people who were colonizers and people who wanted to colonize Africa, and I don't feel that that should be there anymore. There should be some things like that so that the future generation doesn't have to experience that kind of thing anymore. Okay.
Thank you for your comment. I'm going to move on to the next question, if that's okay.
Hi, I'd like to greet the House at large. My name is Tatonya Lingo from Mpumalanga. I have a question that how long does it take for the Effingbacha or other companies to fund organization or projects? Because I'm asking this question based on that when we go and ask for donations in our different communities, they tell us that we are being funded. So we don't get anything in return, or sometimes they don't respond us because they think, or they're telling their minds that we are being funded.
Okay, just to answer on that, if an organization requests for funding, you need to have a profile of the business or of the organization that you are running. And I think the one thing that is very important in compiling your profile, you need to explain clearly what is it that you are doing, what is it that you are needing the fund for. You need to have a budget for, say for an example, you want funding, say 50,000 for an example. You need to state clearly and stipulate in the budget paper that where you'll show how the funds will be spent, and you will get a proper answer. Sometimes you don't get funding. Like for an example, when we were sifting through the applications that we got at that time, it was good projects, but the proposals were not clearly stipulated. The budget plan was not clearly drafted. So if you can get assistance, even from Effingbacha itself, to say, how do we go about writing a business plan? Because sometimes you fail not because you did not ask, you don't need the money, or rather we don't have the money to give you, but the proposal itself is not structured in a way that convinces the panel that you deserve the fund.
Okay, Shlengiwe.
Greetings to the leadership at large. I am Shlengiwe Mqoi from KZN. I am a change ambassador and a future leader of South Africa. The only question I have for Ifeng Bacha, you said, ma'am, that Ifeng Bacha, it's a campaign that actually deals with the voices of the youth. I want to know that voice of the youth, is it the voice of the youth that's saying that's saying that the youth of South Africa is tarnishing the country's name, or the youth of South Africa is actually enriching and trying to change the country that they live in? What is that youth? What is that voice of that youth that you deal with? Thank you.
Okay, I will answer your question by a narrative. I'll first explain how Ifeng Bacha began and what is the role of Ifeng Bacha and how we're rolling it out. In 2002, Nelson Mandela Children's Fund realized that it's a group of employees, maybe from age 25 and above, but they are representing children. And children are not in a working class. So how about we get a group of people who are among the children so that they can represent the children? What are the pressing matters that are affecting the youth of today? So that's how we were found. That's how we were the first group of Ifeng Bacha. And we then came and represented the voice of Gauteng at that point in time because we were based in Gauteng. But as the years have as the years come and go, things have become better. Look, today, through Nelson Mandela and, of course, other collaborations, you are here. We are hearing your voice. We are taking the points that you are saying down, and we are presenting them to Parliament. So that is Ifeng Bacha.
There's a hand at the back, black shirt, red tag.
Greetings to the House at large. I'm Lucky Boy Ndlovu, Ambassador for the Free State. My question is based on what has been the impact of the businesses you've supported to the communities?
The businesses we've supported, there was a business from Harankua. They were converting bio into fuel. We know that currently our cars run on petrol that is created from coal. So this group of youngsters said, why don't we use biofuel or biomass to run our cars instead of petrol? We know petrol contributes to the carbon print. That is why there's carbon tax. Now, these people were not only coming with a solution, or rather a solution for the environment, but they were innovative. So we look at projects that are innovative. So basically what Tricia said, you look at a problem that the society currently has and you try and come up with a solution. So whatever business that you would want to start, you need to first identify what problem are you solving. We're not only presenting problems to the Parliament that we see out there, but we are here to say, how am I going to solve this thing? So all the 7 projects that we funded, they were creating a solution to a problem that they've identified. We funded a school in Pretoria. That school needed an upgrade to their library. Today, the people that studied there are the engineers that are sitting in companies. There are actuarial scientists that are sitting in businesses today. So basically, the projects that we were funding, they had a good impact on the future of the youth. We are the youth of that year when they were funded, and today we are engineers and business people because of those funds.
Okay, I'm going to take the last 2 questions, but Nasipi will be available during a break if you want to engage with her further. I'll take you.
Greetings to you all. My name is Litaba Pono from the Eastern Cape. My question is, you are funding businesses and working with the youth. What is your vision? Like, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself prospering? Like, where do you, like, are you prospering? What is your vision, your aim? Like, where are you aiming at?
Okay, my CEO will answer that. No. You answer this one.
Thank you very much. I think I just want to clarify that what we were discussing was the origins of Ifengbaja. We don't have a funding program as we speak. So it was a test phase. We are not the Youth Development Fund. You know, the country has a huge budget for youth, and that's youth development. The reason we did, someone else's thing is on. Switch off that one. The reason we did that at that time was to see if we showed little investment, very little, sometimes 10,000, 20,000 rand, just to see if it would make a difference, because it's very difficult to apply for small money. And yet it's very difficult for ideas to flourish unless you plant small seeds. So what we wanted to do was just to put on the ground very, very small seeds and see what would happen. And we also wanted to practically, when youth development often sounds like a classroom exercise, and we wanted to move away from the classroom, to say to the young people we identified, you have a budget and multiplicity of needs. How would you use your skills to select that which you think is best, and can you defend your position? So that's why we would call them our junior board, because they would indeed recommend those projects, programs that would go to our board. So it was a test phase. It's not something that I think at this point, we can talk about it as part of the history, but at this point, it might, as it evolves again, we might reintroduce that. But as we sit right now, just to defend her, and the questions she's getting is really to say it was the first phase. We haven't continued with it. We learned a lot in it. We confirmed a lot of things, including that small investments can make huge change, and that investments that don't look like business at the beginning, they might look like doing good, could in itself become a business. So those who are socially inclined, want to change society, should not take themselves completely out of the world of business, because out of that, something might be created that becomes a business. But we needed to, to try with a few young people running around and really just doing leadership in action. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I think really the great learning there to take away is that whilst it was a test phase and it was a first off, there was an incredible amount of success, learning and enrichment that happened during that legacy period. So amongst yourselves, nothing stops you from collaborating and also reaching out to other venture capitalists. There are many available across South Africa, some of whom will speak to you today. And the power lies within you to create this change and movement. I'm going to take the last question, and I'm going to take it from this side of the room because we haven't had one yet. Thank you.
Greetings to all. I am Tsegelelo Tabete from KZN. I would like to ask if, do you all believe in second chances if you'll have funded a person, but then things don't go well first, then do you all fund him or her again? Thank you.
That's actually a very good question, Zielelo. I think I will first answer not to speak about funding again, but to speak to the House at large maybe about the importance of resilience. I think it is very important as a youngster to understand why you started. Sometimes you make mistakes in business, and the business fails. But that does not mean that you must be discouraged and you must throw in the towel. You may go to the person that funded you. Say, for an example, you got your funding from NMCF or NYDA, and now you failed, and you go to knock at that door, and the door is not opened because you failed. But that doesn't mean it's the end of you. It is very important to have resilience. It is very important to know why you have started. Do not give up. Just because you failed, have the strength and the ability to start again. Patricia just mentioned something which is very important for you guys to take home, is that you must collaborate with other young stars that are in business. It will help you to develop further, and it will help you to start your business again. You will actually...
Is there a second mic turned on? Delegates, please, if you could honor the rules of the House. Thank you.
Okay, I'll continue. So it is very important for you to take and note what has been said home, that you need to, even if it's a small forum in your community, that you will make amongst yourselves a business forum where you will learn from each other's mistakes, and you'll be able to get tips on how to run your business, tips on how to keep it afloat. You have to know that you have to continue being innovative. Look at the problems that you are facing amongst the youth in your community and come up with solutions. You will stay upscale. Thank you.
I think we can give Ms. Nasibi Bewana a bigger round of applause, please. Julie Dipova from the National Arts Council of South Africa has also joined us here today. And the National Arts Council of South Africa is also a funding entity within the Arts Department. And she has information on funding, about projects, and she will be able to take some of your questions. Julie, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, sisters, brothers, mothers, fathers, and honorable members at large. As I've been introduced, my name is Julie Dipova. I'm from the National Arts Council of South Africa. It is an entity that funds the arts. It reports to the National Department of Arts and Culture. We are established through an Act of Parliament to promote and develop the arts in South Africa. Now, the arts are quite broad in spectrum. We support the various art forms that exist. We support dance, programs, theater, music, literature, crafts, visual arts, and so forth. There are sister organizations that are established like we are, like the National Film and Video Foundation and the National Heritage Council. But for the National Arts Council, we only support the arts. If you've got heritage programs, please visit the National Heritage Council, and if you've got film projects, the mandate of the National Film and Video Foundation is relevant for film. We currently have an open call for applications. If you're interested in applying for funding, we're closing on the 31st of July, at the end of this month. You need to go online at nac.praxis.co.za. You'll be able to find an application there and fill the application up. It's a very nice platform for you because you can register as a user, answer a few questions, you can go back, research, find more information, upload your budget, and so forth and so forth. But the important thing is that you have to be done by the 31st of July. The grant management system, the one that you apply online with, actually gives you reminders. Every time you haven't logged on, it will tell you you've got 10 days left and 6 hours until the 31st day of March. Thank you. So the 31st of July. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. We'll now take questions from the floor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nongaba Tafeni from the Free State. I would love to know about what is the art department doing to make sure that the youth who have studied courses in fine arts, graphics in universities get employed, because we have a problem of students who have studied art staying at home because there are no jobs in South Africa. So what are you doing to create jobs, or even give them training experience, or even get them in some internships, because they study, get their diplomas, and then stay at home?
Thank you very much. The arts are very interesting. You don't need to be employed to be an artist. You can actually self-employ yourself. If you're a writer, you can write a book, a novel, a story, get it published, and generate money through the sales. If you're a musician, compose music, perform, sing, arrange concerts, and generate income as a result of that. You do not necessarily have to be employed by somebody else to practice your art form. Of course, there are avenues where artists can be employed in galleries, in theaters, for instance, but the artists themselves are the generators of wealth.
Thank you. The next question.
Greetings. Oh, what was my question again? Oh, I have a question here. It's off. My question is, do you only fund those who are... Ish.
Could you try the mic next to you, please?
Oh, I would like to ask, if do you only fund those abaqala ama businesses, or also those who do community development? Like, yeah.
Please, can we refrain from turning on the mics when you're not speaking? Otherwise, we'll have to terminate all the Q&A sessions this afternoon.
Okay. I thought she was going to take more questions. Individual artists are eligible for funding. Organizations that are involved in the arts are eligible for funding. Whether you are a first-time applicant or you've been in existence for many years, you are still eligible for funding. And even when you work as a community organization or in community development, as long as you are involved in the arts, whether you're teaching children how to dance, whether you're teaching children how to paint, how to act, and so forth, you are eligible for funding. The basic criteria is that you have to be involved in an art form to qualify for funding.
Thank you, Julie. The lady at the back, standing up.
Hello, this question is directed to the NAC. I'm just incredibly concerned about whether the NAC is trying to change policies in any kind of way to protect artists, because I'm a full-time artist and it's incredibly difficult to get medical aid, to get a loan, to get housing, to get anything. It's incredibly difficult to be a full-time artist in this country. And having been fortunate enough to travel the world with my art, knowing that in Europe there's so many, that the government has policies to protect artists and make artistry an actual living with dignity for us artists here in South Africa. Is the NAC involved in fighting for us? Because we don't have unions, we have nobody that production companies have to are accountable to, we have nobody in our court. So it's a dog-eat-dog world, and if you're young and an actress in this country, you are the dog that gets eaten.
Wow, that's a very interesting question, which will actually be very difficult for me to answer, but I will try. In terms of fighting for the rights of artists, we exist as a support structure for the artists. We are not necessarily a union. We're not formed as a union. Artists themselves have to form unions. I know there are unions that exist, but it is important that they are really, really active and touch the lives of so many people that they are fighting for. And then approach government, approach the National Arts Council as to what programs you have on the ground that the NAC can support.
I'm going to take the final two questions. I'm going to go down there and then to that corner.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's Tsietsi Nkosi here, Ambassador for Gauteng. I just want to ask, between my lady again from the NMCF, Ifeng Bacha, and the lady who's currently presenting, because it's a generic question on funding. I mean, when you develop programs that must reach young people or a particular target of people, there must be means and ways for you to reach out to those people. If you are creating a program to a rural area child who will never know where to apply to be an Ifeng Bacha member, how is it the person that will come in and apply and be part of the program be representing this young person who doesn't know about the program? So, for example, with your art as well, what are the means or the ways that you're trying to reach these young people from different aspects, from different worlds, that you want to make them come into your program or also come into your projects that you do with arts or with Ifeng Bacha, for them to be involved and be well represented? Thank you.
Okay, I'll go first. All right. When I was speaking about Ifeng Bacha and how it was formed, I first said that Ifeng Bacha was initially just around Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, focused in Gauteng. We were based in Gauteng, and we were working with communities around Gauteng. And then from there, as time went on, we then rolled out, we got ourselves known in other provinces as well. And that is the reason why KZN today is here. Northern Cape is here. Eastern Cape is here. So it's an ongoing process to roll out Nelson Mandela Children's Fund and Ifeng Bacha to be known all around the country. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, sorry, can I just come in? Can you just be as practical as possible? You can even mention an example for that matter. Just be as practical as possible. I mean, from a motivation perspective, we do different organizations here. We need to know if you had to do a particular pamphlet, go with a particular team to a particular community. We need the practicalities of how you are successful.
Thank you. I think she understands the point of your question.
Okay, I will answer. I don't want this to be a dialogue, but I will answer by posing a question, maybe to the House at large. How did you end up being here today? I think the answer to your question is, how did you end up being here today? 10 years ago, you were not here. 5 years ago, you were not here. So it is a sign that, yes, we may not have reached all the corners of South Africa, but we are definitely not in Gauteng alone anymore. Today, we've got ambassadors like yourself. There are people who are the ambassadors in Mpumalanga. That is a sign that Nelson Mandela Children's Fund is reaching out to the youth. Yes, we may not have come to the community in Venda that we also don't know of, but we are rolling this thing down. 5 years from now, I'm sure you'll see somebody from Pembeni. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie's just going to respond as well.
What the NAC is doing to reach out to people is we have provincial workshops. We go on roadshows, which are actually currently on. Some of my colleagues today were in the Northwest Province in Mafikeng, and they'll be having a workshop in Rustenburg and another town in the Northern Cape. Last week we were in Mpumalanga. We're actually even going to touch Emelo part of Mpumalanga and another district, Kwamhlanga. I'm just giving you small examples, but we're certainly doing roadshows to reach out to people. In addition, as young people, you need to look for information, research information. Well, if you type in art funding, a lot of institutions will actually come out, and you'll be able to see the details of which institutions to approach if you're looking for funding. We also have provincial representatives which sit on our board. They are representing all the provinces in South Africa. They are your touch base within your provinces. There are also provincial arts and culture councils that a lot of people don't know about, and yet they are in their backyards. So it's very important to look for information and network and consult with people.
Thank you, Julie. And unfortunately, we've run out of time for that session, so please engage with Julie outside of this room. Please also remember the very important date that she spoke about, the 31st of July. Please go out there, reach out, and apply for funding. And moving on to our next speaker, who is the Chief Whip of the Ekululeni Council, Mr. Dlabati Jangiziziwe, who will speak to the 10-point economic forum of Ekululeni. Over to you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, and greeting to the speaker, greeting to the CEO of the Children's Fund, and all of you honorable guests, all protocol observed. Just as a way of making my input, I want to start by saying that we cannot afford to be part of a youth that is unclear about its generational mission. And that is why, you know, the late Nelson Mandela and Mama Albertina Sisulu, whom we are celebrating their centenaries this year, they knew and pursue their generational task then. And the question probably I would want to pose to this session is that do we have a shared and a commonly understood generational task as we are seated amongst ourselves? And if not, therefore, there is a need for us as young people to begin to share some of the ideas which must then speak to what is the generational mission that must inform us. Let me make a typical example. On the issue of education, we are confining ourselves on free education, but we are not speaking much about the change in the curriculum of education, which is still theoretical and not embracing the technical aspect which the economy requires. It is my view that we must change the curriculum to a 70% approach, wherein 70 is dedicated to technical and 30% is dedicated to the rest. I am of the view that part of our generational mission should speak to the use of our mineral resource. South Africa is blessed with mineral resources, but there's high poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Now, if we transform those by ourselves, we stand a chance of creating more opportunities for our young people to find jobs. The issue of cheaper access to land, we cannot leave it. Let's not speak about expropriation, but let's also speak about the cost of accessing land. Because expropriation, it will be done by government on behalf of the people. But an ordinary young person who wants to be in business, how does he access the land and at what price? And the last area of generational mission, which I think we must also talk to, is the extent to which the previously disadvantaged are involved in the production value of goods and services. We don't need middlemen and the people who are selling the product when it's final, but we want young people who are actively involved in the input, in the processing, and the final selling of the product. And that is how we can change the economy. With regards to social entrepreneur, for instance, as a city of Ekurhuleni, ours is to create a conducive environment for young people to actively participate in the mainstream economy. Now, we do this through policy as the city, which must then enable a broader participation of young people. So if there are those who are in the space of social entrepreneurs, our view is that they carry the responsibility to lobby us as government to ensure broader access to these opportunities that we are creating to young people. And really, for me, social entrepreneurship must also advocate for sustainable business idea. We don't want manga things or quick fix. Real, genuine business ideas by genuine people. Social entrepreneurs must also assist us to really deal with this culture of self-entitlement. We are breeding a generation in South Africa which is entrenched into self-entitlement. In China, intanga zenu sezikwazi ukwenza ama-computers. There's no self-entitlement there. It's about the principle of hard working. But what are the programs that we are bringing as part of our 10-point economic plan in the city of Ekurhuleni? You may not access them if you are outside the boundary of our municipality, but as young leaders, you can go to your respective provinces and municipality to advocate for the things that we do. For instance, we play an active role in the investment of education. We allocate no less than 100 million towards bursary and skills development. We have produced about 700 graduates out of our investment because we believe that education is a fundamental pillar. Secondly, we invest towards a grant in aid where we allocate also 100 million. If there are young people with ideas around the economic development, around the social development, also around sports, arts, and culture, we have allocated 100 million for that. We also have a program that we called a Vugupile, which was initiated by the national government. It's a learner contractor. Those that are involved in the construction space, we recruit them into the program. We give them projects with an intent to grow them from one grade to a higher grade, but also to give them business management, financial management, and the general construction skill. Safe to say that the program director, all these things, we may put these programs in place, but they require a generation that is dedicated. They require a generation that is disciplined. They require a generation that is hardworking. They require a generation that is literate. And they require a generation that is patriotic and prepared to seize the opportunities. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Dlabati. Those were some excellent points made. I'm now going to open the floor for questions.
Greetings to the House at large. My name is Olwetu Chafana from Eastern Cape. What I would like to ask is, on that point of change, there's going to be this change in education where life orientation, some of you will know it as life skills, will be banned or will be removed, and it will be replaced by history. As you all know, that life orientation is automatic. You can't choose to do life orientation. But if it will be replaced by history, so it means that history won't have to choose to do history. So what will happen to the children that are doing maths and science? Are they going to do a history as well?
Okay. I think the Department of Education is maybe better place, but what I'm advocating for in my input, really it would be my view that in South Africa we should make maths, science compulsory. I don't think it was a noble idea to rush to history. History must be a thing that is entrenched everywhere in the society, not only limited into our schooling environment. But we should be clear, what are the subjects that will enable us to deal with the issue of dependence, but to build skills that we as individuals can use to sustain our own livelihoods?
Thank you for fielding that question and doing so well.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Mtokozi Simkuma, an ambassador for Ekurhuleni. I have a question to my fellow leader that currently the city of Ekurhuleni has allocated land to people who have applied for land. My question is, how would the city or the municipality be able to manage that process? Will it be able to train the people before it's allocated the hectare of land first? Or how would the process be done? Because it is useless to give people land. At the end of the day, they won't be able to facilitate it well. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. There's a request here that can you please jot down your questions so that when you are chosen to actually ask your question, you don't extend. Thank you.
Well, at this point in time, Thokozis, we are not giving land to just anyone. We give land for development that complements what the city wants to do. In fact, we are about to take a decision that we must put on hold the giving of land because there is a process of reviewing the Constitution, Section 25. So we want to put our land on hold and we will make our inputs on how we think we should deal with the issue of land so that when we finalize the Section 25, all of us can act within the prescripts of the Constitution. So we're not just giving land to just anyone. We will be releasing, for instance, 85 farms. And obviously, those will be given to people who have the necessary skill and the will to do agricultural work.
Good evening, House. My name is Tolane Sechaba, Ambassador Northwest. I wanted to ask my leader today that now we are talking about the issue of land. And as we are speaking, there are people who have occupied land illegally, and some of them, they are in the municipality land. So what will happen to those people when the municipality decides that this is their land? Are they going to be allocated somewhere else, or is going to be a budget that's going to be allocated for them so that they can build houses where they are?
No, I can take another question and respond once.
We're going to take one more question so that both questions can be rounded off together.
Mine is not really a question like Mangali, so it's a comment. I think.
Please, can you refrain and store the comment for later? We're running out of time.
Sure.
Thank you. Is there any other question?
Once again, I would like to ask about education. There is this document that's circulating around in school that says from certain grades, a learner is allowed to be passed on to a next grade, but then there's a time whereby he or she cannot be promoted to the next class. For example, in grade 11, if he or she fails to pass the grade with good marks, in matric, he or she will write the subjects that he or she managed to pass. So for years, that person will have to try to continue writing the exams that he or she did not manage to pass. So if it was difficult for him or her to pass the subject when there is a teacher in front of him or her, obviously she cannot cope when there is no educator in front of her. So that's like a big problem because it's gonna increase the dropouts of schools. Why is the government, why did the government promote this document? Because he or she is supposed to make it work in the lower grades, not in the higher grades, because it's really a disadvantage.
Thank you.
Okay, I think the last question speaks about this policy of progression. Wherein if you did not perform very well in one grade, they sometimes do an assessment and take you to another grade. I think it's a dangerous system that we are implementing in South Africa. What we need to fix is our early childhood system, which must be able to detect the capability from the onset. There is no point of forcing Jongizizwe, to continue with theoretical work if that is difficult? Why don't we make a recommendation for that person to go to a technical school and maybe do something that will require hands as opposed to frustrating a scholar? Secondly, which is the last question to Kolan, we do not promote the illegal occupation of land. And I think that is the message all of us as ambassadors we must carry. Illegal occupation of land is a distraction. You must allow the government to deal systematically and in an organized way the distribution of land. Can you imagine if each and everyone is just taking land for him or herself? Some of our people are not really using the land productively. They are building imikuku. Now we're making our townships to look as if they are rural areas. So we must very be careful of this rhetoric of people who are saying illegal occupation of land. It's wrong, it's a distraction, it's uncalled for. There must be order in our country.
Thank you, Mr. Dlabati. I do apologize, delegates. I know you all have very active, burning questions and comments that you would like to be heard by the House. However, I am cognizant of time, and I know you all want to rest this afternoon. That's why I'm trying very hard to push through the session and to keep it on time. I do really appreciate your thoughts and your questions and your concerns, but please bear with me. And if we can give Mr. Dlabati another round of applause, please. Our final panelist for this session is Mr. Chilani Subeku, who is the Director for Domestic Tourism Facilitation from the Department of Tourism. He is going to discuss Enterprise Development Program and domestic tourism in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to everyone. Am I audible now? I'm getting different messages. It's fine. I'll come closer. I'll observe all protocol, and a special thank you to the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund and some of the trustees and board members. We really appreciate, as the Department of Tourism, to have our strategic partners as the fund. And I must also mention Eguruleni. I also wish to extend a special welcome to the Chief Whip and the Deputy Chairperson of Eguruleni. They are the only city, if I may say so, that have had appetite for our programs and support and partnership. Last year we had a centenary celebration of the late O.R. Tambo, and we had an exchange program for 500 young people from the Eastern Cape, Eguruleni. We had an exchange. It was a beautiful program. So we are really, if I can mention a number of programs we have, it goes without saying that we are passionate about young people. And Eguruleni, I want to recognize them as the only city that really put their money where their mouth is. And that's what we need in government. And I like the way these young people express themselves in the presence of the minister to say, we want answers, we want practical things. We are tired of rhetoric. And I think this summit should come out with clear resolutions that would make our government to account, people that we have elected. If I were to speak about our programs, may I start with the Enterprise Development Program? Before I even get into what the Enterprise Development Program does, I want to just glean on the number of youth initiatives the Department of Tourism has. Our skills development unit is one of the busiest, I want to believe, in the entire government. We have a number of programs and projects that have completely transformed the lives of young people. If I may mention one of them, the chef program. And I hear a lot of young people say chef, it's chef. My former teacher in me always makes me correct, and everyone at work has become so annoyed with my correction. So young people is not chef, it's chef. So we have a program called the Young Chef Program, which we do in association with the South African Chef Association. It's a wonderful project. We have more than 100 young people who have left the country, who are overseas, in the US, in the Seychelles, in all parts of the world because of this program. So we have trained, I can't even give the exact numbers, but we have trained thousands of these young people. Even currently, the program is currently on. So we would like to see more young people that are passionate about cooking or the chef career to join. I mean, we want young people like you to realize that there's opportunities out there. The hospitality program, the food safety program, the Blue Flag program, which has to do with making sure that our beaches are clean and safe. We have young people who are looking around to make sure that tourists are safe. There's a safety monitor program that we have. So there's a long list of projects that we have for young people, and we hope that young people will take these opportunities and contact the department. Go to our website. Young people are lazy to go to these useful websites. Often they go to these useless websites that are not going to teach you to enhance your career, but sadly, someone asked about why is government giving money to people who have children at a young age. It's because some of these young people have gone to these useless websites that have not helped them. So my message to you young people, if you want something, go to useful websites like the Department of Tourism. Contact the department. We have a beautiful database. We never forget our young people. We make sure we come back to you. We might not give you the answer today. No, I'll tell you a story. I met a young girl. I was driving from KZN from work. I stopped in Villiers at the Wimpy there. I saw this young girl. I said, no, she shouldn't be there at Wimpy. You could see the older ladies, how they treat you. They feel you're there to take their jobs. So she was part-time there. Then when she was bringing the food, I said, are you full-time? She said, no. I said, take my card. There's a program like this. That woman is a chef today. She qualified. She did her program throughout the year, and she she specialized. She has a diploma, and she's a specialist in whatever field she decided around that same strip. So my message to you is that use the websites that are available in government to assist you to access these programs. Just to brief you on the enterprise development, we also have an incubation program where newly established and not so big businesses are assisted or mentored. Somebody mentioned that mentorship program. The Department of Tourism has a huge mentorship program in the enterprise development space. So what we do is that we take these young enterprises, we take them to bigger boys like Sun City, Kruger National Park, and then they are brought into that space to ensure that that value chain, when they want to procure things that you have as a small enterprise, they procure from you. That's the initiative of the Department of Tourism. We deal with small B&Bs, we coach them, we make sure that they have a clear business case so that they do not fail. We also have a newly established transformation fund, unbelievable fund, where we are giving money to businesses that are tourism related so that they do not fail. The transformation fund was established just in, I think it was 2 months, 3 months ago. It was launched, and there's been applications, assessments of those who will qualify. We are also in partnership with the Energy Fund. We want to make sure our businesses respect the fact that we do not want businesses that are not compliant in terms of energy. We've been trying to get some of the businesses off the grid because the biggest problem in South Africa, everyone is relying on Eskom. So we've been introducing green environment for our businesses. Responsible tourism is a section. If you go to our website, you'll see they talk about responsible tourism. Being a responsible tourist means you do not litter. I saw some people, even here in the premises of Parliament, they litter. Once you're a tourist, remember, once you travel 40 kilometers, you're a tourist. Now you've traveled more than 1,000 kilometers. You cannot come and litter here because you are also then contributing to the problems of the environment. So my message to you young people is that be a tourist where you are. Then you will be practicing responsible tourism. There's also a beautiful program we have every year. It's called NTCE, the National Tourism Careers Expo. Every year we have, for a number of years, we have a particular province that does the Career Expo around tourism related. We get schools to come to the Career Expo. It normally takes 3 to 4 days. For these school kids to come and listen and see how they can enhance their careers in tourism. So this year we are in Mafikeng in the Northwest. From this year until 2020, we will be in the Northwest. So those who are in the Northwest, if you would like to be part of that, you're welcome to contact me after the session. I can give you more information. Just quickly, on the domestic tourism, I think a lot has been said already. We are a unit called Domestic Tourism Facilitation. Our passion is traveling. I already said to you, if you travel 40 kilometers, you are on tour. So you must then show that you want to support those people who are in that area. Tourism is called now the new gold. South Africa used to rely on gold for many years. I heard somebody talking about the natural resources. I think it was a councillor, let me check. Labati was talking about the natural resources. The reality is that our natural resources are getting depleted. In other words, you cannot have diamonds forever. We used to have Kimberley as the jewel of Africa in terms of diamonds. Where are those diamonds? Finished. So natural resources come and go, but tourism will never get depleted. That's why countries like Mauritius, Seychelles are doing extremely well in those fields. We need to take tourism as the new gold and invest as much time as possible in tourism. That is why people like Ekurhuleni, who are taking their tourism seriously, should be an example to other municipalities who have a small office. They even call them desks. You have a tourism desk. You can't have a tourism desk. You need to promote your city. You need to promote your space. Even people who are in Soweto, people who are in Benoni, people who are in Katlehong, people who are in Thokoza, where you are, you can do tourism. Those areas have got a story to tell. So this is what we are doing as domestic tourism to ensure that we take some of these young people on tours, like you will have a tour tomorrow. Some people will die not having seen where Mandela was incarcerated. So this is a lifetime opportunity. Now the question is, what are you going to do with that opportunity? If you do not use that opportunity to say, I want to come here 100 times with other people, or I want to go to an area or a place in my area where I can be able to promote tourism. So we have lots of programs, and I'm glad that we have the chance to talk about these things. I'm not looking forward to your questions, though. Thank you. Look at them. Look at them.
Wow, Chalani, I think the delegates are looking forward to asking you some questions, that's for sure. I'm going to start on my left.
Greetings to the House at large. My name is Buhle Kebash. In terms of the chef program, how would one apply? What are the requirements? And after you have taken these people to the USA, when they come back to South Africa, you notice that when it comes to chefs, there aren't as much opportunities for chefs in South Africa. That's a fact. So when they come back, what happens to them? Do you guys assign them to places? What happens to them?
There is jobs for chefs. So I just want to say it's not true. There is plenty. There's lots of jobs. Let's take an example. How many ships dock in our shores? We have East London, we have PE, we have Cape Town, we have Durban. Those are the big ones. How many people need food there? How many ships are there? Just the cruise. I'm talking the cruise ships, not your commercial ones. Now, the reality is that there is so much work for chefs. You need to be qualified. That's why we don't just do the certification part, we do the diploma after that for the same people. In other words, you apply, we normally advertise online, you would see an advert with a closing date, and the requirement is only metric. You don't have to have anything, you don't need to have studied anything to qualify. If you have passion, you just write a short motivation to say why you want to do the chef program. Then there's a process of selection, then bang, you are in the program. So there's lots of opportunities for people to travel the world. We do not initiate that. Some of the countries are already aware that we've produced some of the best chefs in this program. They've been approaching us, but also we were working with an organization that has an exchange program, because experience is everything. When you get Japanese visiting South Africa and you don't have people who specialize in Japanese cuisine, then it becomes a problem. So when you travel the world, you get to know the different dishes that the different people who tour the country. So the whole idea is still around tourism. When somebody from Japan, China, or wherever comes into the country, that person should be able to enjoy what they prefer to eat. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Prince. I'm just going to ask a very short question. I want to just piggyback off the point which you raised in relation to how Mauritius and other countries are able to attract better tourism to their specific places. And I wanted to find out, for instance, in the context of South Africa, one of the other things that we need to necessarily focus on is, relative to Mauritius, they have different tax systems. So what you tend to find is that a lot of people tend to go to Mauritius primarily because they're trying to not pay as much taxes as they ordinarily would pay in another country. So certain countries are tax havens. As a consequence, they necessarily drive more tourism in those specific spaces. So I want you to find out, my question is this: in relation to being able to mobilize capital, for instance, in South Africa for small businesses or businesses in the informal sector, for instance, is there like a harmonized plan that tourism as a department has with respect to that? Thank you.
Definitely. We have 4 branches in the Department of Tourism. One of them is called Destination Development. Now, that is an effort to enhance those efforts to make sure that South Africa is a desirable destination. One of the things that you need to look at, you look at your infrastructure. You cannot expect people to come and enjoy South Africa if you don't deal with all the infrastructure problems that come with time. I mean, every building, every structure over time dilapidates. So the department has a unit. It's actually a project management unit that deals with different elements that might have an impact on tourists coming or enjoying our country. The same as these successful countries I've mentioned. I was mentioning those just as an example, and they are not the biggest on tourism, by the way. If you look at BRICS, for instance, your BRICS countries, which is China, Russia, India, all the BRICS countries, Did you know that South Africa is doing extremely bad when it comes to tourism, domestic tourism, compared to those countries? And the reason is because we've taken long to promote it deliberately, and also our economy has not been doing as well as it should. So people don't have disposable income. So we're dealing with those things to say, why don't we come with something? For instance, we are currently in my unit working on what we call a framework for supporting tour operators. We are trying to say, if you're a tour operator, things are expensive. What support do we have for you? And then we are also coming up with what we call a scheme for social tourism. Because tourism, once it becomes social, it's something that is easy for people to do. So we're coming with all those programs to try and unify our efforts towards promotion of domestic tourism. Thank you.
Okay, our next question, and the young delegate at the back.
My name is Carissa, I'm from Gauteng, and why would you like people to come to South Africa, and how does tourism help the youth, is my question.
I would like people to come to South Africa because South Africa is the most stable country currently, politically. South Africa has the best weather in the world, and South Africa, compared to other countries, has a history, heritage that people would be interested in. And as young people, just give me your last part.
And how does tourism help the youth?
The youth, just traveling on its own. I often use this example. I don't think it's always the best example. I haven't had a proper holiday for my kids for 1.5 years now, and they've been complaining. But because they started young traveling, I've found that there is so much interest in generally other things. For instance, traveling by aircraft has ignited the spirit in my son that he wants to be a pilot. Now, it does something. When you go to France, and for instance, you see the number of wines that they produce, you might be inspired to want to be a person who specializes in wines. You might go to Germany and have interest in whatever Germans are passionate about. So it opens your mind, opens your horizons. It's one of the best things you can do to yourself for life. So I would want you as a young person to be my ambassador. Do you think you can be after tomorrow? I hope so.
Thank you. I'm going to take the last 3 questions for this session. I do apologize, I see many hands up. Please, can you keep your question as brief and short as possible? And we're going to take the cluster of 3 questions before we allow Mr. Tulani to respond. So I'm going to go to my right-hand side. Sorry, I'm just going to point everyone out, and then you can ask your questions. The lady at the back with glasses and the white ponytail. The lady at the back with the hand right high up. Yeah.
It's Prince again. So my question is, when you said you're funding business that are based on tourism. So my question is, if let's say I apply and it takes more than 3 months, 5 months to get a response, so I don't know if I qualify or not. Am I allowed to maybe or who do I consult, and maybe can I apply more than once to increase the chances of getting the funding? Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the second question, please.
Sanbonani, my name is Ntokozo Ngubane from Gauteng. Don't you think that your attracting of young people to become tourists is causing a decline within the South African economy, because the people within your programs leave to go to other countries with their skills, and then this causes us to have to outsource these skills, which uses up more money? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for preparing your question. And our final question, please.
Sanbonani, my name is Nintantla Mcinega.
I want to know, do you guys provide people with business skills in case they want to establish their own franchises? Thank you.
Thank you. Tulani, over to you.
Sure. First question, application turnaround time. Yes, we definitely respond to all the applications. I'm always proud of the Department of Tourism because whether it's a decline or an approval, you will get the response, and we always stick to the turnaround time. One lady, for instance, was telling a person I was seated with that one of the things that she admires about the Department of Tourism, for instance, for businesses or people that are doing business, the Department of Tourism religiously sticks to the 30 days payment that is required by the National Treasury. In other words, when you are doing business with us, there is no way we will never pay you in 30 days' time because we don't want your business to decline. The same when you apply, we've created the expectation. We are the ones who've advertised in the website. Not only do we just reply after 2 years, no, we don't do that. We respond to say, from this advert, so many people applied. Because you've come and signed and said, I want to do this. We will list it on the website, so you will see that it's open. So that's transparency. Even with any other tenders, we do that. We publish everything, and even when you are declined, you are given the options to say, these are the options, and these are the things you can do so that you can be successful. And by the way, I forgot to just mention the age around this funding. It's 18 to 35. The criteria for the funding in the Transformation Fund. If you are a South African, you are young, and have matric, that is the requirement for any business. Thank you. Oh, the second question, asking young people to do tourism, am I not promoting people to leave the country and affecting the economy? Certainly not. We want people to travel their country. That is the first port of call. But when we then skill our people, we want our people to stay in the country. I said it, that it is incidental that people then choose. Because if you specialize, for instance, you might specialize and say, but I want to also specialize in the Indian cuisine. There's nothing stopping you from going to India and study the Indian cuisine and come back. So we are actually exporting some of these skills. And the number of people that leave the country because of wanting to, broaden their horizons compared to people who remain and do the work in the country, it's less than 5%, or even 2% maybe. So we are not certainly saying people must leave the country and pursue tourism careers elsewhere, not at all. The last one, business skills. Definitely we have programs. The same program I was talking to does exactly that. Enterprise development. I mentioned mentorship. I don't know, maybe I was speaking too fast. I mentioned that within that space of enterprise development, part of it is called the incubation. In other words, we are not giving you just theory, which is the training part. We also then take your business, check your books, how you manage your books, how you manage your cash flow, how do you deal with expanding the business, how long does it take for you? Because some of the people are their own worst enemies. He wants the business to be big immediately. Let's take a B&B. How many beds do you need to start a B&B? You need to start there. You can't have 50 beds, for instance. You don't even know where your customers will come from. So you need to do that groundwork. So we walk with you until you are able to stand on your own, and when we assist someone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Chalani. I'd like to take the opportunity to very quickly thank our panelists for their incredible in-depth discussion. I think there are significant funding opportunities which have come to light, which are very readily relevant to our honorable young delegates here today. And in closing, if I can just leave a final quote with you, young delegates, please do believe with all your heart, dream with all your mind, and achieve with all of your strength. I wish you luck and all the best for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member, for such an informative address and for facilitating the discussions. We will now be having our Honorable Member here who will be facilitating the final part of our program for today. We are unfortunately getting closer and closer to the end of our program. Let us please give our ears and a round of applause as she is about to address.
Khona bazovuka ngoba senze open mic. Which one? This one. Members, I know it's after lunch, but I think a great many of you have communicated to us that you have something to say still. I know. And so we thought that before we go, before we finish today, we've heard a lot from a great many people who have come to talk to you, come to tell you things, and I'm sure some of those things have planted new seeds for you, some of those things have clarified your own thinking about things, and maybe made you think in a different way or think more about something. And so we wanted to open the floor to say, having heard what you've heard, on our way home, on our way back home, what are you packing in your bag with you so that you can use it as fuel when you get to whichever town or village you're going back to? You can use it to give you focus, and you can use it to help you think about how you think about where you are and what needs to be done. We've heard, you know, about what the city and the government is doing for us, but I think perhaps another part of this conversation is really to think about what are we going to do for us once we leave. So, with that, with that having been said, I would open the floor to the members and say, guys, whatever you say, it mustn't just be like, yeah, but I've been saving this since 12 o'clock. It should really be something where you say, help the other members think, help the other members take something away from this. Give us pearls from your own thinking and what you think about the session today. We have about 15 minutes to do that, so don't start cold and right at the end everybody wants to do it, so you better be brave enough to be the first. All right. Boom. Okay, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Yes? 4.
Thank you. What I learned from the previous section, particularly about tourism, were quite a few things. So what I didn't know is that tourism has an incubation to support startups that are in the tourism sector. Neither did I know about the Transformation Fund. And for me, that's important to know because I have relatives in Stekspruit, which is in rural Eastern Cape. And for a very long time, I've thought about how that community could empower themselves to use the town as an incredible place for hiking. There are incredible mountains there, for visiting the bridge. There's so much history there about the Xhosa people that I think that needs to be taken advantage of. And so I think I've walked out with basically three tools. Number one is the fund, the second one is the incubation, and the third one is the Careers Expo that they hold every year. So I'm really, really grateful for that. Thanks.
Greeting the ladies at large. My name
Sorry,
is...
darling. Sorry, just a minute. I think you were second, right?
She just passed the question.
She passed it on to you?
Yes.
Throw it like this.
Oh, should I? Thank you. My name is Happiness Njoba from Eastern Cape. Well, today for me, what stood out the most was the projects from Department of Tourism. I didn't know that they had so much projects within them. And then from Eastern Cape, you would find that there's high rate of OVCs. And then I would take the projects and then I would tell them to apply because some of them are lacking. They are lacking information. They don't know more about the projects. They don't know more about the trainings that are happening out there because due to the lack of resources, because you'd find that most of them are living in rural areas, like deep rural areas. And then, well, for me, it's an advantage to take the projects and address to them so that they could apply and to reduce unemployment and also teenage pregnancy in our communities. Thank you.
Are you throwing it back to me?
Wrong one. Yes, because she took the words right off my mouth, so I'm not going to say something that's already been said.
Fair enough. Thank you. Good Lord. I think I want to... Where are my guys? There were some guys in the back who had so much to say. They kept me up till 11 last night. Then I was like, Part of what I want to challenge then is not just for us to say, I think we have all learned something while we're here today, but is to say Monday, because we're here tomorrow, Friday, then the weekend, you're going to be telling your friends all about it. Monday, when you go back home, when life becomes normal, when you go back to your life. I mean, you know you're going back, but I'm saying you'll only, because, hey, it's going to take a while to get over having been here. But how are you going to improve things, make things work? We've spoken about what doesn't work and what's wrong. And what's more important is to say what then and what are we going to do. I have a friend here in the corner who as I said, kept me up, and I'd like him to share his input about what he thought about a number of things, and I will also then take it back to the floor.
All righty. I'll do my brief introduction. I'll be very brief and quick and straight to the point. So my name is Prince Uday. I am from the Western Cape, originally from the Eastern Cape. So Amandla, comrades, I love you guys. So to get really just to the point of everything, one of the biggest things, and this is Africa, so we tell stories, and I'll be very brief in my storytelling as well. So one of the biggest stories, more so when we talk about tourism and social entrepreneurship, for me has been the story of the informal market in South Africa and the story of social entrepreneurs. So in South Africa today, we have an informal sector which sits at about 600 billion rand, about twice the size of agriculture's contribution to GDP. And no one really tells that story. More often than not, the story we hear about the informal sector is one of pain, penury, and difficulty. And I'm going to speak on behalf of two social entrepreneurial projects that I know of and that I'm part of. One of which is a company called Ispani Group. And Ispani largely focuses on employing young African people in the informal sectors and connects them directly with brands who assist them via our software, which we built to either advocate for those brands, collect data in those specific markets, and also on-sell for those brands in those particular communities. And one thing that we've seen on the one hand is that that's created significant empowerment for these particular young people. On the other hand as well is another organization called Jonga, which is a social entrepreneurship project which builds effectively hardware that you can install in a house, and via the Internet of Things, when someone breaks into your house, it sends a message via the technology and sends a message to your phone, and it gives you the option to alert, and you can alert everyone in your community and be like, someone's broken into my house. But the issue that I'm trying to get to at the end of the day is that all of these projects that I'm speaking to you about were started with zero capital. That was the first thing. It came out of a place where we've all been talking about, listen, we want to make a difference, we want to make a change, we want to go back home and do something. Do you know what I'm saying? And we didn't have the resources, we didn't have the financing from any particular party. What we did was that we said, okay, let's write our ideas down, let's put them down on paper, and let's start seeing if we can't reaching out to individuals to help us back this thing moving forward. From the Spani side of things, we literally, I went to UCT, I'm an economist by training, and my second degree is in law. And what that enabled me, and I started my business while I was in school, for the record. So that experience of being a student and trying to work and trying to figure out course, all of these things were things that we needed to do. But part of the conversation which we had with Sako last night was really to begin to say, from an MMCF's perspective, I really loved what Ifeng Bacha was doing and what you guys are necessarily doing with starting to fund ideas specifically of young children and young entrepreneurs in the space. I think that's something that needs to specifically be resuscitated. More often than not, a lot of young black entrepreneurs within South Africa find it very difficult to access seed funding, find it very difficult to access working capital funding. One of the challenges that I experience, or at least the entrepreneurs that I interact with within the informal market segment, they always tell me, Prince, we have three principal challenges. The first challenge is I need to make a decision to either fund my business, fund my family, or fund myself. And I think that it's a travesty of justice. We are in 2018 in South Africa. It's Mandela's 100th birthday, if he were to be alive. And I think it's definitely possible for us to mobilize resources, not only from government, but also from black leading entrepreneurs in this country, and from business sector in relation to this. So I'm posing a challenge both to the Nelson Mandela Children's Foundation, both to Ifeng Bacha and all stakeholders here, that post this event, let's have a serious conversation around how we can support young black people, South Africans, and even if they're not black, who are interested in creating programs to change their communities. Financial resources play an absolutely important role. Not everyone's going to have the sort of resilience that we had to survive on bread and cornflakes for a couple of times, like for quite a while. Do you know what I'm saying? Before we're able to get out of where we were. This is just a very brief, short summary of what we did, and I look forward to speaking to you guys further afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you. You see, we didn't sleep. But I like these ideas because, and this is part of what I'd like us to do just for the next 10 minutes, is to say, how do we pose challenges to ourselves? And I think at the beginning of the session that I facilitated, somebody said this is not just about saying we're going to ask government to do something, but we need some way to say how are we going to hold ourselves and each other accountable, so that in a year's time when we come, I'm going to say how much capital are we now able to fund and feed into young black businesses that can work and that will work. So I'm glad that he said it out loud, because when you say it out loud when we meet again, I'm going to say, brah, how far are you? So part of what I'm saying to you is, what am I going to ask you? How far are you on when you go back home now?
Thank you very much. I'd like to greet you all. My name is Fundo Mia. I'm from KZN. I'm doing my final year in media studies at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And I'm also a member of the Young Bazo. So I would like to share with you the mission and the objective of the Young Bazo, like what we're doing, and also share with you an idea of how we as the youth could come up with some solutions to some of the problems that we have. 1 minute. Okay. The Young Bazo mission is to unify, educate, and inspire youth about the power of peace, love, and harmony by proudly celebrating South African indigenous cultures, heritage, and history of our own world leaders, ideologies like the great King Shaka Zulu, Dr. Nelson Mandela, and Dr. P.J. Shabalala, just to name a few. The objective is to redefine the local international perception of South African youth by telling the true narrative of our being through music, media, theater, literature, and dance, using our socio-cultural enterprise as a distribution vehicle. Thank you. And to add on what you've just said, I think we as the youth should stop complaining about the problems we have and realize that we could be the part of the solution. From my personal perspective, I think people should find their spheres of influence. For example, I am an artist, so I try my best to do what positive using my artistic skills to educate people from my society, or rather inform them with whatever they need to know. So can other people from a different field like healthcare, safety and security, finance, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My name is Boka Makengwe, and I'm from a small village called Butitilita. What I'm gonna invent at my village is that we don't have a library, so I'm gonna collect books from like people. I'm gonna ask people to donate books. Like I'm gonna open a library for my community. So I'm asking a donation from you on the floor, people or delegates, to donate like books. If you have a books, you can donate for my village. Then after we'll take up to the government, because I, as youth, I should make sure that I make change before I ask the government to participate or to help me. Thank you.
So that sounds like two things for me. One, to the rest of us, guys, if you have a book, an extra book, at least if we all put in 2 books, we could at least have 600 books. That's already a library, né? So that's done already. And then you, when we meet next time, we say, how's your library and how are your librarians? NMCF, you track us.
Greetings again. So what I've taken from this whole thing is that we as the youth should actually stop making ourselves victims of situations that happen in our communities. Because now, regarding everything that has been said to us by these organizations, is that the more that we, like the opportunities that are given to us, and it is up to us whether we're gonna take them or not. So for my community, taking back to East London in Eastern Cape, is that mostly in my school, is that we should stop making ourselves victims of our situations. Instead of being victims, we actually try and actually do means to actually fix those situations. And by doing those means, we have funding from people, like the NMCF is actually helping, many other people are helping to, giving us opportunities to do all these things. So now it's up to us, it's our turn to actually say, you know what, I'm gonna take this opportunity that's been given to me and I'm gonna use it to my best ability, even though it means that there's certain things that have to sacrifice, but in order to succeed, there's certain things that you have to put aside so that you can achieve your goals. So guys, please take with you guys, stop being victims of your situations and actually fix the situations if you have the capacity to actually do those things. Thank you.
Good day, is it day? I don't know. Everybody, I'm Lering from Free State. Right, to the lady over there about this library thing. I'm quite interested in your idea, so I wanted to know which books, what kind of books do you really want? Of which level?
Like agree, we want like people to know how to read, so you can donate any book you think it is important. Yeah.
Well, from today, I gained a lot and I'm promising to take back whatever I've learned here back to my community. Tell them it's not about waiting for what's coming, but it's also our duty to push for what we are waiting for. I also learned that how we as the youth can work forward to make South Africa a better place for all of us and the future generation to come, whereby we will use our own environments to create tourist attractions. We also were told that there are sponsors for us, the youth, but then it is up to us to stand up and use that opportunity we get to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Nyambeni, Chikunda Nyambeni from Limpopo. Growing up, I've realized how internet has become a source for most of our schoolwork and personal projects. And I've been a victim of sexual harassment online. Like when you're doing research, you find that there's visual sexual adverts and websites that you really don't expect that they will pop up. And when you want to download something, some of the documents, an ad just pops up out of a blue. And I've realized how it has been so easy nowadays to access a sexual context online. So I challenge you guys to protect children's rights by educating adults of the threats that are out there. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I'm Tegan, as I said earlier on. I would like to give everyone advice on something that I started doing at home. I realized that everything starts at the younger kids, at the kids from 6 years old, and so like the manners and stuff, and the way you see that most of them can't read in grade 7 and stuff like that. So me and my friends, we like about 5 at the moment, because we have like more than 30 children that we are tutoring every afternoon from Monday to Thursdays, and holiday programs where we do extra classes with maths classes, anything they need help with, English and Afrikaans and stuff like that. Because when it starts actually at the younger age, so we know that we're going through a tough time at the moment, but we don't want them to go through the same thing. So if we start with the younger ones and try and get help and stuff like that, and just do something, and then, yeah, that will be better.
Guys, as I said, I wish we had more time. I know. I told you open mic and you were shy, and now. But what I know for sure is that wherever we're going, we're all going to be together. And our ears and our hearts are still going to be in the same place. So wherever it is we're going, let's not stop the conversation. Let's not become strangers once we leave the room and then you're like, oh, angwaz. If you had something to share, share it with whomever you find yourself to be around once we leave here. I'm going to now pass the mic back. Pass the floor back to the speaker. Thank you very much for your inputs. And Children's Fund, next year when we meet, I want to see how many libraries we can manage to build, not just in one village, but each of us are going to villages, towns, etc., etc. How many libraries can we build? She's already come up with a blueprint of how we can then use these libraries so that they're useful spaces, not just spaces with books, to teach children how to learn. And he has come up with an idea of how we can generate our own income to make our ideas come to life. So next time we meet, or on your website, we should be having trackers to say, how is it going? How far are we going? So we hold ourselves and each other accountable. With that, I thank you.
Honorable members, it is only unfortunate that we have come to the item which is closest to the end of our program for today. So, with that said, honorable members, I believe that all that we were doing today was productive. I believe that we were educated, we gained a lot, and we are now going to go back to our respective schools and communities and actually implement what we were discussing here in this house. So I shall be leaving you with a few quotes. The first one says, "Success is not a mistake. It is a product of hard work, determination, passion, care, and most of all, love of what you are doing or learning to do." The second one says, "The greatest tragedy in life is not death, but it is life without a purpose." And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, the third one is by Miles Monroe, which says, "You must decide if you are going to rob the world or bless it with the rich, valuable, potent, and untapped resources locked away inside yourself." Now, in that note, I shall be saying that education is the most important tool that one can use to conquer the world. Anyone who does not realize the significance of education is not only drowning in a pool of ignorance, but is also playing a game of chance with his or her own future, a game that will often end in disaster. For your undivided attention, I shall be handing over to Honorable Silwai, the honorable member who will be addressing us right after as to where we are going from here. For your undivided attention, honorable members, we thank you.
Honorable members.
Standing in between your way home. So before I go and begin to give instructions on how we're going to leave the house, can I please ask for everyone to give themselves a round of applause? I have not been tasked with the honor of thanking specific people, so I will stick with what my mandate is. The buses have arrived, and I have been asked to please coordinate how we're going to leave. I believe the caregivers have already been asked to come down. Can someone confirm for me? All right, so the caregivers have come down and they are outside. I'm going to please ask for the following. Can Gauteng please be the first to get up? Okay, but everyone, please wait, please wait, please wait. Let me finish what I'm saying. I see some caregivers are going out now. All right, so as caregivers meet at the end, can everyone please meet in the foyer in front of those metal detectors? Does everyone understand? All right, we're going to meet in front of the metal detectors. So I will first ask for Gauteng to please rise and get out of the house.
Like Mamba's will sing for us.
No, because it's the biggest group. Right. Caregivers, please ensure that you account for every child.
Okay. But I don't know where we concluded on the memorandum. But I know it was, we were rewriting. Yeah. All right. And maybe it's better to delay than produce.